We don't just review whiskeys here at Hello Again Whiskey Friends. We also collaborate with our friends all around the country to find the best barrels we can for this community. If you're curious what we're coming up with next, be sure to join our Patreon or our private Facebook group. Links in the description. We got a few firsts here on Hello Again Whiskey Friends for today's videos. I'm already laughing. First, we're going to review something that I simply couldn't resist getting my hands on, and a plastic handle at that, of Ancient Age 10 Star. Now, I haven't gotten my hands on an Ancient Age in a while, but when I was hunting in Ohio recently, they happened to have this sitting there at a store for like $25, and I just couldn't resist picking it up in all of its plastic goodness. My mother-in-law likes this quite a bit too, so after this review, this is probably going over to her house. Oh my God, it's even funny just like slapping this plastic bottle. It has been a while that I've gotten into Ancient Age, so this will just be an interesting tasting all in all when it comes to something that is only $25, but is also hard to get your hands on at the same time because it shares that same mash bill and reputation with Blanton's. Now, the other thing about this release is that they changed it to 10 stars about a decade ago. It used to be 10 years. So after we get done with the review and just concentrate on this bottle, we are then going to take a break and go into a blind flight where we are going to compare the Ancient Age 10 Star to an Ancient Age 10 year. I believe this bottling is from 2007. And just because people swear that both of these releases at one point or another tasted like Blanton's, we are going full tater in the mash and drum shirt today, and I'm going to throw in Blanton's into this blind. So we're going to start off, as I twist the screw top, with the Ancient Age. Every time I say it out loud, I always think I put like an extra ancient in there, but we're going to pour this sample here. And then as mentioned off the top, this was about $25 for the handle, and it is 90 proof. It's not age stated anymore, but maybe I could email age@bourbonwhiskey.com and get an answer. Maybe I should do that and see what they say. All right, so we're going to go through the process just like we always do. Going through the nose, the palate, into the finish, into the final scores. And if you're still hanging out with me, hit that like and subscribe. This is the type of content that we're doing each and every week, though typically lesser known brands and not anything to do with Buffalo Trace. Let's get into the nose, the palate, and then into the finish. Cheers, everybody. Honestly, off the nose on this one, nothing really off-putting. The initial approach had a bit of a fresh, salt wood, but not really in a bad way, more in a refreshing workshop kind of way. Then got into a layer of baking spices with that hint of cherry that you'd expect from Buffalo Trace. But then the more I just let it hang out and linger, I started getting like hints of chocolate and some nuts and some caramel too. But the fact that there's really nothing off-putting about it is a very, very nice nose then. Not something that I really want to hang around and smell anymore, but still half the battle is already over there. All right. Let's get into the taste. I got a whole lot more thoughts going on than I would have expected there. On the initial approach there, nice creamy mouthfeel, nothing really to stand out in any way, but also didn't feel overly watered down either. And all the initial flavors on approach are very similar to the nose. Getting aspects of those baking spices and the cherry, a little bit of that nuttiness that I talked about. But then in that transition to mid-palate, I mean, the cherries and the baking spices really take off. And then as you get into the finish, actually lasts a lot longer than I was expecting. And I was getting this combination of vanilla, cherry, and chocolate, which then puts the image in my mind of a cherry cordial. Next to that was a lot of more oak than I was expecting as well. Honestly, a very, very enjoyable tasting here. I think the surprising thing too, I mean, I mentioned the mouthfeel was just middle of the road. I gave it a 7 on the score sheet, but the finish lasted a long time. I mean, it is doing some damage to this glass here. And you can kind of see there as it runs through. I mean, it's pretty sticky. So this tasting has caught me off guard quite a bit here. I enjoyed this more than I was expecting in so many ways, which then makes me more excited for this blind flight that's going to happen here after I finish this review. So here on the channel, we do have a robust scoring system with all types of metrics behind the scenes that can be summed up into a flavor score, an experience score, and a value score. We then aggregate those scores together so that we can see how this whiskey compares to other whiskeys that we've reviewed. And this one scored a very good 76 for something that was $25 for a handle of it. And I think the other thing that impresses me about this one is there was nothing that was off-putting about the experience too. It was all 7 and 8s is how it earned up to this 76. And of course, it got full marks on the value. Yeah, I enjoyed this a lot more than I was thinking. I'll have to do a comparison to the Evan Williams 1783 and see which one's my favorite bourbon that I've done reviews on so far this year. Man, now I'm even getting like a little bit of a honey off the nose. I'm going to stop exploring that so I don't bias myself for this blind any more than I already have. But yeah, that was very enjoyable. I'm going to go take a little bit of a break, and then we'll set up for the blind and then see how it compares to the Blantons and the original ancient age 10-year. So stick around, everybody. I'll be right back. You might hear about drifting drams from our barrel picks, but not only do they know whiskey, they know coffee even better. Katie and Ethan are always bringing in the best coffee they can for this community. And if you enjoy coffee or you are curious about getting into good coffee, you need to check out Drifting Drams. Fancy coffee for regular people. So check out their website to support a small business that is passionate about what they produce. And they will forever change the way that you look at coffee. Welcome back, everybody. And as I said at the top of this video, we are going to do a blind flight here today, going full tater in our mash and drum outfit. First, we got the handle of the ancient age 10-star that I just reviewed, and tell you what, I was pretty darn surprised about that. I like that a lot more than I was expecting. Now, there will be some recency bias on this one. I tried to wash out, walk away, come back, but we'll see how much of that imprint it leaves in my head. Or maybe they all taste similar. We'll see. But what we're going to compare that to, and this is a bottle from 2007. This hasn't been age stated for about a decade now since they transitioned to that 10-star. The other thing to note on this one is that it's 86 proof. And shout out to my friend Jacob, who continues to leave this bottle at my house. This is not my bottle. It lets me do sciencey things to it. And then last but not least, you know, everyone says ancient age tastes like Blanton's. So we are going to put it into a blind flight with a bottle of Blanton's here. So the Blanton's is 93. The 10-year age-stated ancient age is 86. And the ancient age and the handle is 90 proof. So a little bit of a difference in proof and age across this whole spectrum. So I've got 3 glasses in front of me here, and I'm going to put these down on the table, and I'm going to rotate them while I talk to you. Now, at the bottom of each glass is a sticker, one marked with a B, one marked with a star, and one marked with a 10-year. I'll know what those mean on the back end, but obviously the B is Blanton's, the star is for the 10-star, and the 10Y is for the 10-year age-stated H&H. All right, so I'm going to spin these around just one more time, and then I'm going to take this marker here, and I'm going to mark them with an A, a B, and a C in the order that I grab them. And so that you can keep track as I go along, I'm going to use a graphic up here to express to you if I'm talking about the A glass, the B glass, or the C glass. As we go through the nose, then through the palate, maybe I'll have to do some side-by-sides, but in the end, we'll have a ranking and we'll have a winner. All right, we're going to start out with the nose on sample A. So cheers, everybody. Man, right off the bat, that's pretty darn good. I think I picked the right day to do this whole experience here because I am clearly in like a Buffalo Trace mood. This one isn't cherry. This one's all grape on the nose, like a dark grape, like flashbacks to the 80s and drinking grape Kool-Aid, kind of a sweet grape. Got grape soda, all about grape. There is a little bit of a darkness to it here with a little bit of oak, but I'm actually having problems getting around that grapiness on A. All right, so A is grape soda. Let's move on to glass B. Now on to B here. B is less aggressive on the nose for sure. The grape vibes are still there. I'm going to try to see if I can get that cleared out because, man, I am still getting grape soda. While the grape vibes are still there, it's more balanced with some baking spices to go along that. And the oak on this one has that more fresh cut oak that I mentioned on the ancient age earlier. So not anything that's off-putting like a youthful oak, but just a more refreshing, middle-aged kind of oak. All right, on to glass C here. Now C, right off the bat, has some nuttiness and some caramel to it. So that immediately makes me think that the one in Glass C is the 10 star. I'll try not to bias myself, but the noses on these are very distinct. And immediately I kind of got shades of that freshly cut wood, the peanuts, and the caramel that I was talking about earlier. So, all in all, in terms of the nose, did a little back and forth here, but the grape bomb in A is kind of crazy. I mean, it's like straight up like popping open a can of grape soda. We'll see if that translates to the palate though, because I don't know if that's going to be something that would win on the palate. So on the taste, we're going to start out with sample A. Cheers, everybody. Man, that is grapey and it's got old oak on it. A little bit of a dusty vibe to this thing too. Man, mouthfeel on it's real creamy. Still getting that dusty oak pretty immensely. And just overwhelming grape soda. Trying real hard to get around that grape soda. Oh man, that was a fun taste right there. Woo. All right, the leadoff sample's tough. Let's see what B has in store. B has more of a underlying honeycomb vibe to it. Quite a bit of oak and baking spice presence as well. The oak isn't as dusty and old as that first sample, but still has a very balancing presence with all the sweetness that's going around. And then that honeycomb vibe is lasting for quite a bit here. All right, that was pretty good too. All right, this is a tough crowd for sample C, especially if I'm right off of what I said off the nose. So let's get into C here. Yeah, C's not competing in this blind. The positioning probably didn't help this thing, but what I'm getting now on the taste is a lot of wood and a lot of nuttiness. Little bit of caramel, vanilla, and cherry to hold it all together. Nothing still that's off-putting. So I don't want to say that because this one's falling in last place that I didn't enjoy it. But this feels more budget whiskey than the other two did, which makes sense. Of course, I'll look like a fool if this ends up being the Blantons, but I'm pretty sure this is what I just had, and this is the Ancient H 10 star. So all in all, the Ancient H 10 star, if I'm right, man, I'm really doubling down on this, and I don't even know if I'm right yet, but sample C, we'll get rid of the fact that it's what I think it is. Sample C is not competing in this blind. This is truly between samples A and B. So I'm going to do one last taste of A, one last taste of B, and then I'm going to come up with the winner. So we're going to start out with sample A. Man, on the nose, it's got those dusty vibes. It is so relaxing on the nose and so inviting. It's this combination of this old oak and the grape. I'm starting to get past the grape soda thing on the nose. I mean, there's a lovely vanilla there. All right, let's go in for a taste. Oh yeah, grape is still there. It's still the main note, but that lovely oak, the dusty vibes, quite a bit of vanilla going on. That vanilla is almost like a frosting. Man, that is really, really good. Telling you, I must pick the right night to do this low proof Buffalo Trace flight because I am enjoying this immensely here. Now let's get into sample B, but off of that last one, going back to it, I mean, A is in the pole position. I mean, on B though, I mean, B's nose, it doesn't have the oak, but it still has those nice fruits between the cherry and the grape. And then those other sweet flavors. The thing that stands out with B though is like this honeycomb note that I was talking about before. So overall, the profile on B is brighter, but still very inviting. All right, one last taste. Yeah, B can't win this battle. The honeycomb and the more cherry leaning now that I've been really sitting down with it, and that kind of nice, soothing oak, but it's that type of oak that's not young or old. This pours decent enough, but Glass A is unequivocally going to be the winner here. All right, so in the end, the ranking was Glass C, B, and then A. C being last place, A being first place. Glass C really could not compete in this flight whatsoever. While there was nothing off-putting about it, its flavors simply weren't as vibrant as what was happening in Glass B and Glass A. So let's get the reveal on Glass C here. And as expected, it's the star. So this is the Ancient Age 10 star that I just reviewed, and I gave this one a 76 out of 100. I mean, the new expression's not bad, but it is no Blanton, and it starts to get depressing that one of these is the 10-year, which I think is sample A. But what used to be on the shelf versus now sometimes. Got to appreciate what you have while you have it. But I still don't have any regrets of buying this handle for $25, to be clear. In 2025 terms, this still feels like good value. Doing this flight right now just reminds me of how things were 10, 15 years ago. All right, now let's get in the reveal of Glass B, which is in second place. Now, I think Glass B is the Blantons, and that's totally random that Glass B is the Blanton. But my thoughts on B is that it had some nice characteristics, particularly with a honeycomb note. So let's see what B is as I raise the glass here. All right, let's turn this around so it focuses. And there we go. It is the B. It's the Blantons. So then with all that said, if we get into Glass A, I mean, we already know what it is. It's the 10-year ancient age. I mean, I know we're going back 18 years since this bottling and they took away that age statement, what, 10, 12 years ago? Something close to that. It's still just weird to look back on things and to say that the ancient age 10-year is better than modern day Blanton. And then the thing that you kind of find too, though, is that residual effect on a brand name, because the ancient age brand name still lives up in people's minds as to being on par with Blanton's. And when people tell you that, if you did a blind like this, you begin to understand why. I mean, just the fact that this was a budget bottle in the 2000s is flabbergasting to me after doing this blind. But I guess there's a few conclusions we can bring from this particular experience right here. A, if people tell you that the current ancient age 10 star is as good as Blanton's, that is not true whatsoever. It does compare well to other things on the shelf at that price point. And maybe I'll do a blind of this ancient age 10 star against a JW and a JTS Brown, but that's the category that it does fit in for sure. But for a Blanton's to then get boxed out by the ancient age 10 year from 15 years ago, and for the Blantons to cost so much now, there's something about this experience that still left me with a sense of disappointment, only because they keep raising the prices on things that they have to know aren't as good as the things they used to release. And you know what? I wore this Mash and Drum shirt as a funny joke, but in the end, I feel like I'm going on a Jason rant at the end of this video. All right. I'm going to go enjoy the rest of my Glass A, which was the ancient age 10 year. Let me know what you think of this blind flight and the format and everything I did in this video, because it's the first time I kind of laid it out this way, but it felt kind of natural the way I was doing it. So I just want to know if it feels the same way to you. And if you've done a comparison of the ancient age 10 year to a more modern day Blanton's product, I want to know your thoughts as well. And just remember, while you can always find more whiskey, you can never have enough whiskey, friends. So take care of those around you, and we'll catch you on the next one. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for watching Hello Again, Whiskey Friends, everybody. A big shout out to our amazing Patreon community. If it wasn't for you, we couldn't continue to produce the content and barrel picks week after week. And for everybody else out there, be sure to hit that like and subscribe. It really helps the channel more than you know. And we'll catch you on the next one. Goodbye, everybody.